Choo choo, motherfucker.
Do, lady.
Ew, what is the crack? Welcome on Steam Train. Flama, Sierra, what is
7
happening?
minutes.
How are we getting on? Tomahawk!
7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
Physical smimsical. You know how important it is. You know how important it is. So, I've been playing a lot of horror games at the moment, and we just finished up Silent Hill there on Thursday. So, as a bit of a palate cleanser, I'm going to play Transformers Devastation. It's a game which has been delisted, so you can't buy it digitally anymore. I actually own it digitally on Xbox, and I can't even download it anymore because I didn't have it downloaded whenever they took it off the store. Ignitus, what's happening? So I've rebought a physical copy of it now so I can play it forever, for all eternity, for the rest of time. So I'm happy about that now. And I think I might do this every so often as well, where I did it with that game where you're out in the desert in the sand. Up here. Where's Spec Ops: The Line. Fighting a cold. I'm feeling a bit bunged myself, and I don't know whether it's a bit of a cold coming on or if it's hay fever. I'm not too sure. Spec Ops: Line, yeah. So that one was delisted because they lost the rights to the music. So unless they're going to re-upload it with music taken out, that game isn't going to be available digitally anymore either. So I'm going to start buying up a lot of physical games, and just classics, ones that I never want to lose. I bought a physical copy of Final Fantasy IX the other day. I own it digitally, but I want the physical copy of the PS1 game as well. So ordered that unfunded. Thanks, Latency or Cloudbus or whatever your name is, for putting me on that website where I've spent too much money now. But I don't. It's this whole Sony thing. It's ick. I understand why they did it. I know that financially it makes sense for them. I know that probably the numbers have all pointed this way, but it's still ick. Still ick. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like never being an owner of a piece of media that I paid full price for. And if they are going to remove something from a store full time, like they did with those movies the other week, at least partially refund people. You know, if someone has paid to own a bit of digital software, give them at least part of their money back if you're no longer going to be making it available for them. The Vita PS3 one isn't as bad. James Lee actually did a brilliant video on our Discord. Well, he didn't do it on it. He did it on YouTube, but he linked it in our Discord, where him and his wife Vicky go through and they talk about it, and you know why one seems worse than the other. And with the PS3 and Vita one, you know, they're not going to have as many people going on that store and actually purchasing things at the moment. So you can kind of understand it a little bit, but with the way Sony have gone now, which is saying there's going to be no physical games in 2028, is a bit bullshit. It's a bit bullshit. Or even if they want to charge a bit more to print you out and post you a physical copy of the game, why not do that? You know, if you're a collector, I don't think you'll mind. I'm at the point that I'm sick of hearing about it. Well, tough. You're going to hear about it more and more. Flim flam bam lam. That and loop theory. That's what we're going to talk about all night. No, what we're going to talk about now is Transformers. This game, I really, really enjoyed it. It was made by PlatinumGames, who did Bayonetta and a lot of them sort of fast action games. And Sammy Dabby, welcome on. Sammy, what is happening? How are you getting on? And this one kind of flew under the radar a bit, but it's the most... Style-wise, it looks the most like the original 80s cartoon. There's been other Transformers games which have been great, like War for Cybertron and Ball Cybertron for Sign and Tomahawk. But this one, I think, captures the aesthetic of the TV show best. Samurai! Dabby-doo. Samurai, Dabby-doo. How in the world do I go from Dark Knight to Samurai? Well, that's just how it is. That's how it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And Hook was very upset at that one. Actually, chat went out of their way to fuck Hook over because he got Dark Knight and said, I will never check in again. I will be Batman. And chat went out of their way to make sure they beat the boss so he would automatically go up a level. And he was raging, but it was funny. Can I remember the Animals Transformers game? Yes, Beast Wars. I wasn't a huge fan of Beast Wars. I know a lot of people really loved it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Beast Wars. There was a Transformers Armada game that came out on PS2 that was very good. How the fuck is Flemish a level up? That there may have been an occasion where Flemish was maybe part of the group. No, actually, hold on. Where I should have a list of everybody here. Yeah, so Flemish is level 30, Happy Irish, Tomahawk level 29.
What the fuck is going on here?
You're right, Leonardo DiCaprio. Because fuck you, that's why. Actually, Flemish, I'm going to take levels off, you know, because I told you to dare talk to Tom about that cheating bastard. People can go up levels if you beat the boss on particular nights as well. So if you beat the boss, everyone will go up levels. So Flemish is sitting at the top at the moment. I'm going to probably introduce a system, I haven't figured it out yet, where you can maybe battle each other and knock each other down levels. But that's detrimental to the boss as well, so let's see. King of the Castle, because I was kind of like, can't have Flemish be the top at all times. He'll get full of himself. What do I get if you beat the boss? What happens then? Everybody who is in the party that beats the boss goes up another level. Sticky mess. For fuck's sake. Sierra, go and have a word with him. Go and have a wee word with him. He's a wild man himself. Wild man himself. So I'm going to jump over to the game now anyway. McKinn's budgie.
I remember getting blocked one time and joining the rob by an accident.
There's McKinn's level 25. You legend. You need to change your profile picture. I pull your active profile picture, McKinn's, but yours is just a generic guy. Get her changed. Get her lit. He's actually cackling himself about that joke. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's just laughing away in a forever loop like the storyline Silent Hill 2. No, by G. By G. So, when I log on to Transformers now. Transformers. It's more because it took him a second to catch it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm tired. I was out doing the backyard earlier and got eaten alive by mosquitoes, so I didn't even bother doing the front garden. Like, there was a massive one stuck to the underside of my arm when I came into the house as well. Fuck. Got me good. He got me good. But his efforts were all in vain. Tread farmers, robots in this pride. Transformers. More than meets the eye. That's true. If you don't move out of the way, you'll automatically catch it.
Transformers.
Just like cities. Proceed. I've paid for my black belt exam. Oh, well done. Nice one. It will be a dangerous weapon if notice. Teddy, thanks for signing on, buddy. I have a black belt. Is it? It's just a normal black belt.
With an expanded free trial, which you can play through
Also
the
appropriate
entirety
if I
of A
were to
Realm
take it.
Reborn and the award-winning Heaven's Ward, Stormblood and Shadowbringers expansions up to level 80 for
Thank you,
free
Sammy,
with
for checking
no
them.
restrictions
For the
on
stream streak.
playtime.
Insecticons.
And I love the fact they got the original voice actors back to this too, which is good. I once paid for a black belt. It no longer fits around my waist. I tried to make a belt out of watches once, but it was a complete waste of time.
Plasma energy is unstable. No Cybertronian has been able to tame it.
Except
since-
Starscream, they couldn't.
since
Chris Latta, the
golden
voice actor for
age.
Starscream, passed away back
Then
then.
stand
These are
back,
things.
Starscream, and watch me.
Waste of
take
time
it
indeed.
as
For fuck's sake,
I
thank you for the
ordained you.
butts. For gigantifying my shame. My shame.
One of these days, Megatron.
Constructicons. Use the kinetic shields to build me a perimeter.
And where will you be, Lord Megatron?
We have been given a gift beneath the surface, and I intend to use it.
Just look at fucking Grimlock wandering behind him.
Megatron and his Decepticons are already here.
You can tell they're bad guys because they didn't say please. They didn't. Motherfuckers. I mean, they can be evil all they want, but being rude is unacceptable. So weirdly enough, you would think this would be more of like a shooter game, and there is shooting in it. It is, but it's more of a combo kind of action game. You've heard of Megatron. Thanks for the advancements in modern day technology.
Our mission is clear.
Get ready for
Save the city.
Terror.
Stop Megatron.
Can be evil, just don't be a dick. This is true. Yep. There are many heads of corporations in the real world who are evil, but they're polite about it.
Autobots, I am all right.
But if I lost my arm, I'd be all left.
Rendezvous later.
One shall stand, one shall fall. Optimus Prime. I love the look of this game. One thing that does kind of annoy me about it though, right? I don't think the scale is right. I think the police car is too small to be beside me. It's my destruction. Well, it's called Transformers Devastation. It's not Transformers not Devastation.
What in the world is all of this? Wheeljack? Come in. Is this Cybertronian technology?
I think so, Optimus. They're creating hurricane force winds like they're trying to sweep the city clear.
Whatever their purpose, there is more to this situation
Transformers
than meets the
moderately
eye.
damaged, lightly scuffed. Don't think I said it is. It is. I was transforming. How dare you do a cutscene mid-transform? You motherfuckers. Do they have to MOT themselves? Did they get insurance? Like, simple thing. I know. It'll buff out. So it's Dynasty Warriors? Yeah, a little bit. I would say it would play a lot like Bayonetta or kind of a wee bit like Devil May Cry. But you can turn into a truck. Which actually, I think you kind of can in Devil May Cry a little bit. I wanted to ask them a question. Punch! Stop telling me to do that one thing. I know what I'm doing. Well, kind of. Yes! Nope, there's nobody there. Yeah, aren't you it's just this whole area is now fucked because of the Transformers. They've wrecked it. Looks like a lorry fun. Yes, Teddy. Let's get life insurance. But is the life insurance going to pay out if you damage someone else's car? These are the questions we should be asking.
Optimus, I got
I'm
you
enjoying the
back.
pace of this combat. Yeah, I like it. The combat really does open up later on as well.
Keep trying.
Punch!
Use ranged weapons. Keep firing. They'll fall eventually. I think.
Don't sound too sure of yourself, Sideswipe. Wonder if I can. Yes, I can. We're a truck at him. Ginge, what's happening? How are you getting on? We're playing through a lot of Resident Evil games and horror games at the moment, so this is a wee bit of a palate cleanser for us. And I've recently got a physical copy of this game because you can't buy it digitally anymore, so I'm having to go with this. You could say combat accelerated. Yes, you could. Just that. Right in there. Ooh, there we go. Oh, no. Oh, mate, you can't park that up there. Do you reckon the Transformers ever do that? They ever, like, just climb up on top of a building and just be all... And just as people come up, well, there's a fucking truck on the roof. Vehicular vehicle slaughter. Just the one I say collectibles there.
Attack this ion barrier repeatedly in a short time to destroy it. Then you may proceed.
We broke it. You think they struggle to parallel park? I don't think so. I'm saying it'd be handy enough because you just walk into the space. Like say we're going to park here. You just walk into the space and then just go. And then even if someone gets too close to you, then you just go walk back out again. You'd be grand. You'd be grand. Would you not be raging if you got clumped? If you were a Transformer and they clumped you. Oh, there's Bumblebee.
Hey, I found something. Follow me.
Where are you going? Hold down the switch. I know how to do this. I've been doing it flat out.
Now I know what the humans feel like when my windows are down.
These windows.
Some sort of cash.
Oh, zero cash. Zero cash. What? Burn slime? Just drop a fucking train on somebody.
Knew it. Nice job.
Do you ever think Optimus Prime gets tired? He gets far too tired? Maybe some of them are into that.
Pretty bad. What are we gonna do?
I think they'll ever renew their car tax. Car tabs or car tax? You ever walk around with a big yellow boot on? I know. I love the videos of Bumblebee at Disney World. Oh, the Megatron. See the guy that does Megatron? For that ride? He's amazing. Where people go over and get pictures taken and he does nothing but give them absolute grief. The guy is a legend. Where's this one? Oh, fuck up, they wreck all this. Right, okay. What is Grimlock? Megatron. Oh, he's so sassy. He's like the best characters in Disney World are Megatron and Gaston.
Grimlock, no get through door. Need help. If I stay focused, I think I can get through.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't saw that coming. Focus before getting hit. There we go. You know, they say people can't change, but some people can change into trucks, cars, and other vehicles. What am I looking at? They get clamped with the... It's a bit changes into their nipples. And it's just a swinging from them. Turns into Prince Albert. I'd love to have that job. I could literally say I want the customers. I'd love to have that job. I could literally say what I want the customers instead of the retail smile. Oh, that annoyed me. That annoyed me when you couldn't say what. There should be a day every year where you can just say whatever the fuck you like to people. That'd be class. This was. They think I'm just being in character. I know. I am Megatron and you are a prick. We know, Timothy, that you cheated on your wife at the Christmas party. And he'd be like, Megatron, you're getting a bit raw there, kid. Ooh, this is nice. That's every day, is it not for you? It is, yeah. You're just very lucky you're in a job where they don't sack you. Just give the balls to do it. You get sacked. Devastator. He's actually there standing as well, but we're right beside me. Did that just go, Jesus Christ? Oh, you got me. Well, I do feel crushed at the moment.
Me, I am done for.
Garbage.
Time to die, Autobot.
We're getting them, we're getting them, we're getting them. It's kind of Kazani as well, where you really have to not really work on the parries, but the dodges. So a lot of it is kind of timing based. There we go, we're down. But Jesus Christ is a transformer. There is a Jesus Christ transformer.
You're needed elsewhere.
Daddy, look it up, look it up.
Finish the Autobots.
The worst thing was,
Another time.
It's not my fault you waited until Mary's water broke to buy a turkey float on Christmas Eve. I know! Oh, I used to work at a supermarket as well, and it was very much, you've ruined our Christmas. And you're like, hi, oh, I'm Bumblebee now. Yeah, tiny. Something to go cross country. I mean, we're just lucky that someone I work with knows what I'm like. I know, that's what I'm saying. If you started somewhere else, they'd be like, HR. I just do the retail smell as soon as we're in the warehouse and see. I remember whenever the store, when
Bumblebee, find cover and take out enemies with distance weapons.
you take out enemies with distance weapons, Wheeljack. Fucking dare you, sir. So the store we were working on was closing down. How did I reload? Oh, right. There we go. I like that one. I like that one. The store we were working on was closing down. I had already left at the stage, but he was telling me that, you know, they were getting more and more deliveries and all the stock was getting put out onto the floor. And it got to the stage the warehouse was completely empty. And he had somebody call in to the store and they're all, do you have this item? And he's like, no, we're completely closing down. Everything we have is on the shelves. We have no more stock left. You didn't even check out the back. And he's all, we have nothing out the back. There's nothing. I want to speak to your manager because you haven't even checked. And he was like, just went and stood outside the back for like 5 minutes and then came out. No, we don't have it. Just for them being such a dick. And he's just like, you can see the shelves are empty. The store's closing down. Why are you... He knows there's nothing out the back. He is aware there's nothing out the back. Don't be a dick. Pick up what? Am I hearing Kremzik? Oh, Bumblebee, what are you doing? Yes, I know this. I tried it and he fucking didn't do it right. I work at a supermarket and store butchers. Not by around by us, but people were asking if they had turkeys for Christmas and they would order directly at the butchers. So they basically expect them to pull turkeys out of their asses. Right, so just walk at the back for a couple minutes and come back. Yeah, especially when you do deliveries or you've worked there long enough, they know that this item is out of stock. And when I worked in Toys R Us, it was very much, oh, this is the big Christmas item. Do you have them in stock? No, we know for a fact we don't have any in. Oh, you're going to ruin my kid's Christmas. And you're just like, hardly kid. Oh. Because we had 2 women fighting over a fresh turkey one Christmas. We had to call the police to separate them. Mental. I just wanted that thing. Can I just race on to Happy Fight Your Man? Obtained a mastery object. It's a lot of the cutscenes at the moment. Bane, what's happening? We're playing some Transformers.
Megatron, what is the meaning of this?
Optimus, come to save the day, I presume?
Also had him in there, speak to the manager, and the manager tells him the exact same thing. I know.
Stop me? Oh, Prime, you have no idea what you're really up against, do you? Who is really behind this?
This is our home now, Megatron. We should respect it.
No matter, Prime. I have no interest in destroying Earth. But I'm not opposed to making a few, shall we say, improvements.
To be fair, most of the managers sit on their ass in the office.
Oh, playtime is over.
Me!
How fortunate for you.
Thank you very much for the raid. Raid incoming. Welcome on, folks. How are we getting on? Any's don't know May. May is a really, really good buddy. Streams a lot of Resident Evil games, a lot of cozy games. Definitely give her a follow. Very, very high energy. Very, very funny. But welcome on. Cody, what is happening? Thank you very much for choosing me for your raid, folks.
Umaru, you sure you want to do that right now?
Yep, that noise happened. Thank you for the shout out. Thank you very much for coming on. Anybody who raids into me as well goes to my Hall of Fame. Give me a wee second, we'll jump right over. That's us for July so far, so there's me up there in the top right-hand corner, right beside Cloudbus. Thank you very much for coming on. And like I said, anyone in my chat who's not following me, please do so. She's an absolute legend. I'm good, Leork. Hope you're well. I feel a wee bit bummed. I feel like I'm getting a wee bit sick, or it's hay fever. It's one of the two.
At Backlash?
Transformers. At Backlash.
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 At Backlash.
We're going streaking!
Mega, reach from streak. Thank you very much, buddy.
Come on, everybody!
At Backlash.
At Backlash.
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 At Backlash. At Backlash.
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 Parades have started here. How fun. Have they? What? What day is it? Isn't that next week the parade's no more happening? I hope it goes peacefully. I hope there's no botheration. Everybody's fine.
Got to break through
What?
You can't.
You can't do this to me.
I'm something of a scientist myself. Oh. Damn you, Megatron.
You must attack at maximum speed to break through his shield.
Right. I am doing it. I'm going to maximum speed. There we go. There we go. Be right back. Getting my noms. You get your nom nom on. Destroy the fucking people in this face. Oh, people can do decently combos here. Damn you, Megatron. I need to figure out how to heal. Oh, I can go underneath his legs. That's Bumblebee's move. Oh, that's pretty cool. I think once you get past the kind of tutorial section on this, it does allow you to just pick what character you want to play as. You know, there's only certain ones available for particular missions, but... Oh, I'm missing chat here, mate. They've been practicing for the past few days, right? Okay, don't know why. Isn't like their set list changes. Well, that's very true. Anyway, shouldn't have played this one these days. Last time I played a Transformers game was on my DS. There was some great ones out in the 360 era. You had this, and you had the War for Cybertron and Fall Cybertron. Fall Cybertron particularly was a wonderful game. Was that's physically how cars move? I drive a car, I understand this. You know how to defeat them big arms? You tickle them 10 times. 10 tickles.
Autobots, Megatron is headed for that steel tower. Move out.
Yes, one shall stand, one shall fall. Why go away your life so reckless? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron. There we go. Now we're sucking diesel.
If you use the wind current, you should be able to jump higher than usual.
No. No way. Oh, no, all the stuff. Give me the stuff. There we go. Send me back up. The one DS is called Transform. Yeah, there was 2 versions of it. Came out with the movie. So they were very, very similar games. They just had different characters in them.
This wind current is too strong to pass through, even in vehicle mode. You will have to find another route for now.
I don't know what all these collectibles are for. What am I supposed to be doing with them? We have items. Oh, so repair kits. Right, okay. Nuts. Right, okay. I love the films. Well, some of them are great, some of them are not so much. Michael Bay got a number on the Transformers, which I wasn't too pleased about. But Bumblebee was good. I love Bumblebee. That was a good film. Ground Soldier. That guy was never going to make it on the management, was he? With a name like that.
Sideswipe. No need to hold back.
Was I planning on holding back? Liking the dual swords. Oh, he dances, he dances.
I'm embarrassed for you. Give it your all. Sideswipe, now! Throw everything
Oh, that's
you've
cool.
got at them.
Ultimate gauge. Oh, I like this. Happy hours, what's happening?
I don't think I've introduced
Where was this game delisted from? It was delisted from any digital store, so you can't buy it digitally anymore. It's I've purchased a physical copy for myself just so I'll always have it. Here's my retort. Has it really been 5, 10, 20 months? If not, please disregard message and get back to work. Sam, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. That's right. It is. And they've done it with a lot of games. And I'm on a kind of a trend at the moment of picking up really good delisted games. We played through earlier in this year Spec Ops Line, which is a great game, but because of music licensing, they lost the. What did I get that? They lost
Stuff. Looks like Energon, smells like Energon. Teletran
the rights to it.
analyze.
Analysis complete. It appears to be a volatile form of energon. It would like
More enemy combatants. Megatron's serious.
Oh, the flamethrower. Flame Boy. Very odd, it is, and it's a lot deeper than you would imagine. You think it looks like a generic shooter, but it really isn't. It's a great game. It's a great game. Played the demo like 15 times. I picked up the 360 copy not that long ago because I'd never played it, and it was the same sort of thing. You can't buy that game digitally anymore, so I wanted to give it a go. Yeah, it is. And then when you play it the second time, everything just makes a lot more sense in it. And let me swap weapons out. Shoulder cannon. Ooh, missiles. Can't like multiple lock on though. That's a bit sucky. You're a bit sucky. Why is that guy not dead? I've been fucking firing everything at him. I can't remember the name of the one I'm thinking of. That was my worst. But a few of the Bay ones. Which one was the worst? Was it... not Dark Knight. The Last Night? The one with Anthony Hopkins wasn't great at all. It was really... It was just all over the place, and it didn't make any sense. Play side mission. I don't want to play side mission.
This wind current is too strong to pass through, even in vehicle mode. You will have
Even
to
in
find
vehicle.
another route for now.
These guys are not adhering to the Road Safety Act. Yeah.
Never stood a chance.
Never stood a chance. Oh. Warning, what's the warning for? Oh, Seeker, sure, okay. I'm missing. You play as a guy across the post-apocalyptic city looking for his family, but some really nice climbing mechanics as well, and a lot of grey area choices to make. Yeah, that's true. I bet them damn illegal rubber emblems didn't pay road tax. Hey, they came over here and they stole all our women, and that's what happened. I actually have the figure of this character in yellow named Sunstreaker. Yeah, that was his brother in the TV show. If you don't know already, I'm a massive Transformers fan. It was my thing when I was a kid. And see that 1986 film? Oh, chef's kiss. It was the one thing when I was a kid that made me cry. Like, I had that in VHS, and I wore the tape out. I watched it that many times.
Hey, watch the paint!
What's down there? Where are you? C! Best thing about Dare to Be Stupid was a phenomenal song. Yeah. How do you feel about the Michael Bay films? They're not great. The first one was okay, and the second one was trash. Third one was good. And then the Bumblebee film with John Cena and all was actually quite good. I never seen him on it though. They said he was on the film, but I never seen him. I've noticed all your collectibles before. I have Cybertron, Coronation, Starscream as well. Oh, nice one. Nice. Yeah, I have a few of them. You could probably see Devastator there in the corner. So that's the... Well, just one I quite like as well. Where's he? Rodimus. He's quite good. Don't fall. Don't fall. Yeah, some of them were good. The very first Transformers film that Michael Bay did was okay. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't the worst. And then the second one was just, oh, how much slow motion can we get Megan Fox to do? And you're just like, don't go all in on Megan Fox, it's fine. You can showcase other characters. The Bayverse Devastator. No, it's not Bayverse, but oh, I know, with the testicles.
Oh, playtime's over.
Oh!
How fortunate for you.
Sam, thank you very much for the raid. Well, come on. You only dropped my wee follow there recently. How was your stream? How did you get on? What is the crack? Thank you so much for choosing me for your raid. We're playing through a little bit of Transformers Devastation at the moment, but anybody that raids in the Mikos in my Hall of Fame. And there you are then. We had May raid earlier on the night, and there you are, Zan, up there now. You absolute legend. There for July. Thank you so much. How did your stream go? I heard May say you were DJing. And how was that? Already here, but I'll say hi again. Cody, it is good to see you a second time. Dan, I'm going to drop you a wee follow as well. There we go. I'll be able to catch you
I don't
next
think
week.
I've introduced myself yet.
Thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. Oh, do you have two different accounts? There's DJ Zan and Zan. Oh, very good. Very good. I like it. Oh. That thing happened. That man I know, but Zan's your lad. Nice one. Well, that's high praise.
Can you hear it, Optimus?
I thought he was going to go, can you dig it, sucker? It was hot. Pretty fire the night. Trying out many decks. Ooh, nice. I wish I was musically inclined. I am not. I am not the creative type at all. I am analytical, kind of spreadsheets and programming kind of person.
But I cannot have you following me this time.
I've always wanted to learn an instrument, but look at the fucking shape of that. Just Megatron.
Don't let him escape.
Fucking drive.
Already on it.
Same, I just push buttons. But you probably have one of them creative minds. It means that you can actually figure stuff out, where I'm not so much. Ah, look at the sheepy now. Oh, so he could turn into a tank the entire time and just decided to ride on top of his mate's back. That's fucking hook-like behavior.
They are
Ready!
I don't have the brains.
Ready, you do have the brains. You absolutely legend. What is happening? Drive sport. Let's see how it is. You went to change up from being known as the Resi guy and back to your roots. That's what happened. No, I'm taking a wee breather from the Resident Evil games. Not that I don't like them, but just a wee bit of a palate cleanse, just so it's not all horror all the time. You kind of, there's the worry you'd niche yourself a little bit there as well, wouldn't you? There was a lot happening on the screen. I know me and Ruddy would chat about that quite a bit as well, about, you know, what games we think people like, what games people maybe don't. And I suppose it depends on the type of person as well. Some people watch for the streamer, others watch for the game. I am a definite watch for the streamer kind of person, and the game is always secondary. Like, you could be playing something I wouldn't be interested in at all, like Big Boss. Big Boss plays a lot of FIFA. I do not like FIFA, but Big Boss is fucking really entertaining, so I'll tune in these streams just because I enjoy him. I watch for the streamer, otherwise I wouldn't watch Ian so much. Oh no, I do like my Final Fantasy games. I think I'd still watch Ian. Sure, he has a wee gun for Starspeed. That's right, he turns on the wee tiny gun. He likes his mates to hold him. Yeah, someone would stream grass growing. I'd be like, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
About time. Less talk, robot. More dying.
Let's talk more dying. I don't know where I was aiming at them. Megatron. Oh, I got nowhere close that thing. One shall stand, one shall fall. What? Go away, you light sound records. Go. Oh, what'd you do? You slowed things down for me because you missed your big bitch. No! What am I missing here? I'm going to put a camera in my garden just for you. Oh, to watch the grass grow? Let's talk more dying. Has 3 full health bars in the last 10 minutes. I know he's a wild man himself. Just keep recharging. He saves scumming, that's what he's doing. That makes me feel special. You mean your house garden or your downstairs garden? Oh, I watch Flamash because he's wonderfully evil. Eh? I like to annoy Flamash. It's my favourite thing to do. It's just wind him up. I like to say things which I don't necessarily believe, but I know it annoys him. It's the same with Hook. I like to say that, oh, Linkin Park is shit. I like Linkin Park. But I say it to annoy Hook. Halo as well. I love Halo, but I'll say Halo's awful just to annoy him. That was my fault. I drove under the wall. There we go. Oh, I'm doing a wee cool backflip as well. Look at me go. Did that wee style. It annoys me because I bite every single time as well. Yeah, There's times you leave and turn around and say, I know you don't mean that. I know you're doing it to annoy me, but... And then 3 hour rant. And it's wonderful and it's my favorite.
Engage the security system. Good luck getting in, Prime.
Teltran 1, analyze.
It's a ship of unknown origins, buried beneath the city.
How do I shut down the security
There was one
system?
time I said I wasn't biting, went on the topic 10 months, and then went to rant. I know. I don't even remember what that was. It might have been like Raccoon City 2 or something.
Once disabled, the primary generator will be vulnerable.
Autobots, transform and roll out.
I don't know why this is delisted false and false Cybertron. People love them. I was reading it the other day, and it was to do with the licenses Activision had for the actual Transformers brand. Fall Cybertron, whenever Activision was bought out, I was very, very hopeful that Fall and War for Cybertron would get new games, but it never happened. And I want to pick up physical copies of them, but they're quite expensive at the moment. Not your street. In real life, I have evidence of you tripping kids in the park, throwing eggs at old people and keying cars. It's what he does. What he does. That's why he goes out and... You'll notice at about 10:30 every night, he says, I'm taking a dog out for a W, and he'll just go out and start being a menace in the street, setting people's bins on fire and stuff, swapping their house numbers about. I still love that I started Raccoon City 2 as a wind-up, and you all ran with it. Sierra, you didn't start as a wind-up, you were telling the truth, and we all believe it now. I know the Transformers license changed, but who owns the comic rights? I don't know. Is it Image? I have no idea. They made the figures for them, but sadly no new games. Actually, I have Transformers. Here. Yeah, Image. So, I have these ones. Which, to be honest, they're fucking brilliant. You would think a Transformers comic would be all nicey-nicey and... we're going to fight the Decepticons, but just all death. It's about like the Decepticons and murdering humans and stuff and just ripping their limbs off, and it's class. It's everything I wanted from it. One thing I'm using right now, it's infinite knowledge available to us. That's right. It's the same for the Power Rangers comics. They aren't darker, but darker than... Yeah, they're darker than you'd expect, 100%. And I love that. I love picking that new tone and stuff with it. Oh, happy days, the uplink is activated. Folks, we were worried the uplink wasn't going to be activated, but it's activated now. Sweet. I don't know what this is doing, but I'm happy it's happening. Thermal gloves, because it's cold out. You now have the option to change characters. Yes. And who are we playing as? So a Sideswipe, Optimus Prime, or Bumblebee. I like Sideswipe. People, the last Ronin and people's first discovery of the Turtles as a comic. I think they're pretty surprised how gritty and dark it was. And the older comics were darker than the cartoons. Peter wouldn't get activated for the rest of the game and just be, huh? Yes, we lost. I know, no uplink. I'll activate. Fuck that shit. Reading a book of the road and watching the movie. The movie went easy on the watchers and how depraved the book was. Yeah, it annoys me when licenses do get like that and they tone it down. And you understand they're trying, they do it for the masses, but it's not the best. Look at these guys. Running straight at me. Don't you know who I am?
Strange. They don't seem to notice us. There's something different about these Insecticons.
Oh, he's still alive. Not anymore. Let's go. Sugar God. Yeah, if you've never played the War for Cybertron game, War for Cybertron and Fall for Cybertron, they are wonderful. Very, very good games. Phenomenal set pieces. There's one bit where you have to control Metroplex, and you just He busts in through a building when Megatron's giving a speech and completely destroys him, just pounds on his head until he's dead. And you're just like, whoa, where'd that come from? And it was a shock as well back in the 80s whenever the 86 film came out, and they just killed off so many main characters and Optimus Prime as well. And I know it was a marketing ploy. I know it was, they wanted a new line of toys because they couldn't just keep selling the same characters over and over again. But it was great. More than none. Don't do it for the masses. Do it for the millhouses. Mom breathing down their necks. I won't. I won't do it. I won't. It wasn't Daredevil. Was it not confirmed to be? What was Daredevil? So many cartoons in the 80s were based on adult material. I know. First to shoot Daredevil getting twatted in the face. Right, okay. I've seen gameplay of the other titles and they do look great. They're phenomenal, but they're also delisted, so you can't buy them digitally anymore. He has well acknowledged the creators, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, the Matt Murdock before he became Daredevil. Right, okay. The maddest part is what they made the figure of Optimus Prime's corpse and sold it. I know. Cracking. What's happening? What is cracking? You're correct, but technically speaking, the kid is Matt Murdock. He doesn't become Daredevil until later in life. Ah. You are technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. Can anyone name me what cartoon that was from? Trying to keep cool. It's not too bad here. It's still it's still toasty, but it's not as warm as it was, so we're okay here. May, what's happening? Served a coffee. I would love a coffee. Can someone make me a nice coffee? That was all of it. Pedantic correction. Yes. Also, the Hook. There he is. There's Hook. Hook. See, knew he would fucking show up. I love the fact that the first proper anime that a lot of us were exposed to was Thundercats. And you're probably thinking Thundercats was an anime. It was actually animated by a Japanese anime studio, and that's kind of why the quality of Thundercats didn't depreciate. It stayed really, really high quality, even now. So if you look back at the old Thundercats cartoon, it still looks amazing, because it was technically done by a Japanese anime studio. Well, not technically, it was done by a Japanese anime studio. And they were so... Everybody, go and list me your favorite cartoon when you were a kid. What was that cartoon you got up on your Saturday and your lunch? I know May was singing Inspector Gadget earlier on today as well, which was quite good. We've got Columbia Gross and Run-A-Cup. Ooh, yes. I'll go for it. Probably absolutely amazing. So, Turtles, love the Turtles. I think there was one Halloween where everybody dressed up as a turtle. Well, I'm just going to blast you boys. I got better things to do tonight than done. Oh, Hook at it again. Oh, you stunned me. You son of a bitch. There we go. Got him. Got him. There's so many favorites as a kid. Thundercats and She-Ra. Oh, yes. He-Man was also good. I still need to see the new He-Man film. I'm looking forward to that one. Oh, there's stuff over here. I keep forgetting I can turn on the car and move faster. Search. It's 2:54 right now. I suppose I'm being bad. Well, it is 8:54 p.m. here. Here McKinn's is McKean to see He-Man. We were, but we could never get a time sorted. There were so many brilliant ones when I was younger. Mask, Visionaries, Transformers, Thundercats, He-Man. Fucking turn into a car. Oh shit. There we go. All of the stuff is now mine. Don't need to go up here, but I need to go that way. The Mask is another film a lot of people didn't realize was pretty dark and gritty comic series. Oh no, I wasn't talking about The Mask. I know what you're on about, the Jim Carrey one. But there was one that was M.A.S.K, and it was trucks that could fly and cars that spread wings and stuff. That's something else that we've kind of missed out on. The amazing theme tunes from cartoons. They're not as good anymore. Oh. We're in the middle of ads at the moment. We have ads as well. Folks, apologies. It's Flamash's fault. He's decided that we have to charge for ads. He's in charge of the ad revenue. Why, man? Why, man? Oh, am I going the wrong way? Fuck. I'm going the wrong way. Where should I go? One? Am I just supposed to fight this thing here? So there's some structural issues. It does. It's not going well for the city. Oh, well, he's dead. Am I supposed to be here? Playable. No. Oh, it's just a couple of way. Okay. Got lost. Oh, fuck, Batman was my side. Oh, that Kevin Conroy Batman. Kevin Conroy is the best Batman. Mate, thank you so much for the butts and the giant me flopping my hair. It is everything we thought it would be. Okay, I can look this here. Oh, wrong way. Peter Cullen is a... Oh, I know. And he was also Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh as well at one stage. A lot of people didn't know that. He is... I think he's 91 at the moment. Peter Cullen. Oh, thank you for the butts. And shamrocks and everything, making it very, very Irish. I appreciate it. Thank you, May. Ada? It was great open so it was phenomenal. Do you remember the episode though? There was you can look it up on YouTube as well. It's titled "The Smartest Henchman of All Time," and there's Batman's investigating some sort of room, and this henchman is checking the rooms. And he opens the door, and him and the Batman make eye contact. And he just stares at him. And his buddy goes, "Is there anything in there?" And he's all, "Nope." He just closes the door and walks away. And you're just like, "That guy knows. That guy knows he's about to get fucked up." Oh, the alert had Ada on it. It did have Ada on it. He's 84 according to Google. I thought he was in his 90s. Oh, 84, still a brave age. Why was Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh? That's just weird. Well, I don't think it was necessarily weird. Wasn't the different characters in Winnie the Pooh, they kind of express different emotions and mental states? We can't go that way, we're going this way then. We go round the long... But no, we're in the long way. Right. Fuck that shit then. The joke... I don't get the joke. Why was Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh? That's just weird. Flamash, what the fuck are you talking about? He was burned dirty. It wasn't a very good one now, was it? Doesn't have the usual wit and class that I appreciate in a good joke. Not my best, admit. No. Hang your head in shame, for fuck's sake, Flumosh. Disgraceful. You went for a dirty joke and it wasn't even that good. Good shot, that cup.
How strong your steel, Autobots!
Long haul and Mixmaster.
I'll now accept your unconditional surrender, jerks.
The guy doing the voice of Sideswipe, I think is it Michael Bell? I know that he was Pinky and Pinky in the Brain. John, thank you for checking out. I think he auto takes health if I go low enough. No, he just dies. He just dies. He does not pick up. As punishment, oh, he does auto pick up. Right, okay. As punishment, you have to play Monster Hunter with me. That's not punishment. That is an absolute prize. That should be auctioned off. Not Irish. I played Monster Hunter with you, and it was an absolute pleasure. Are we excited about the Wilds DLC?
Hey, watch the feet!
Have you ever seen Pinky in the Brain as well? Do you remember the bit where he went through and he named all the countries in the world? And in a song? Oh no, it was the Animaniacs. He still does that, but he memorized that entire thing, and it's still in his head. Some people ask him to do it in conventions and stuff as well, and the legend still does it. Yeah, I realised it as soon as I said it. Jesus, Flumosh, you are the ultimate actually, aren't you? Actually. I don't believe in loop theory. How you do? We all do. We all know it's true. It's in there, open and unlocked. What's it? You've been playing Monster Hunter? Jesus Christ, Flumosh, what is wrong with you? Who hurt you as a child? Cassie, what is happening? Oh, come on. Thank you for coming on. I am winning. It's Saturday night. I've had a can of Monster and I'm playing Transformers. I am fucking winning right now. Me, I damaged my head many times. That is true. You do skateboard and... Is it rollerblading? Hence why you married me. CR, you are a fucking catch. So don't you be saying that. Don't be putting... Folks, don't be putting yourselves down. Except Flumosh. Even Flumosh. Don't put yourselves down. I was reading a thing recently about how the body can... Your body can react... How powerful words are, and your body can start believing the stuff you say about yourself. Well, never earned energy from skateboarding and rollerblading. Happy days, you must be good at it. I've actually damaged myself more running. Ooh, which monster? It is... I'm a basic bitch, so it is White Monster. I like it. I like it for the taste. Anybody in my chat, if you're not already following Cassie, she is a great streamer as well. Met her through the game. Lovely streamer. Oh, I don't know where... Oh no, keep going on down this tunnel. I've only ever had it once. You don't need to shout out. It's already done. Get back on. Oh, it's Kremzeek. Kremzeek! Fucking Kremzeek, where is he? Let me grab him. Can I grab him? Fucking Kremzeek. Oh, I can't get him. It's too quick. Come back! Side swipe. Get him. No. It's giving me like for a split second, it's giving me the option to pick up. If I just stay here, maybe I'll bounce over. Maybe that's the strat. Wait for him. Keep hitting the B button. There we go. Got Crimsy. Yes. Combat. You want to hear crazy thing? I do want to hear crazy thing. Yes. Too late. You're getting followed. I perish you, legend you. What's the crazy thing? I keep it happy. I'm going to torture myself with Fortnite. Have a great stream. May. Thank you so much again for Freedom. Thank you for coming on and chatting. You enjoy your night. Last night, I went out for chips and found a kitten. How? Why? When? Where? Is the kitten okay? Are you keeping the kitten? Is it yours now? I didn't get chips. I ate the kitten. It was a stray. Oh, bonus kitten are the best kittens. Oh, happy days. Well, I'm sure the kitten was glad to be found. And I hope it wasn't one of those occasions where somebody abandoned the furry cat. Because I hate that. I hate people abandoning or misusing animals. Whoa, there we go. Oh, your man just died. Oh no, he didn't. He's still alive. Something died. All of the slow shots. I've named him Chump because he does bite. He's only dog. He'll be better. I have my Cleo, she's my puppy dog. She was a rescue dog and she's the best way. She's that best chick. God knows why anybody gave her up. We got her and she was fully trained, but she was the most terrified puppy ever. She still kind of is. She still gets very, very afraid. But she's getting better with it. He also headbutts. Cloudbus, what's happening? How's it going? Cloudbus, I have a bone to pick with you. Not happy with you. Not happy with you. I've spent too much money on that website that you recommended. You've made me buy things I wasn't planning to buy. And it's your fault entirely and not mine.
Nothing has been made that I can't dismantle.
Can I, oh, it was just Vanted.
Primary generator.
He recommended me going to Vanted for retro games, and I found a copy of Final Fantasy 9 for a tenner. I was like, yes, here we go. Then I've been eyeballing everything else. I thought it was just clothes, and he was like, no, video games too. I didn't knew it because I stopped now. I have about 100% of the stuff coming. Why not? Why not? What a crack. Hit these shieldy boys. Kablamo! They are taking chunks out of me. You know, I might be better just to run. Oh, I missed the ramp. Missed the ramp. Fuck. Right, okay. I'm something of a Final Fantasy fan myself, Peter. I love the Final Fantasy series, as you can probably tell by all my tattoos. where are we going now? There's a computer over there.
Gets by the
Loaded series, to be fair. Oh, I know. I only have 2 Final Fantasy. What do you have? What tattoos do you have? Tell me about them. This is shocking news. I need to sit down after hearing that. I know. I have my Gunblade, my Buster Sword, and then I have a Tomberry there at my Rust as well. Sir? Big Grim challenge. Alright. And he is just clumping through all the environments. Oh no, he got me! No! This fight, it is. Technically it's 6 against 1 because there's 6 Contrapticons. Sucker! And also, I don't think that their scaling is right because they've got even bigger, their vehicle forms have got even bigger now. I call shenanigans, I think it's unrealistic. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. Take that, you son of a bitch. Autobots, correct. Oh, knock me for 6. When I'm fighting spider, when I'm fighting a spider in the living room, that's exactly how it looks. So it should. Better retry because I died. I love pets. We used to look after what would have been my sister-in-law's cat. He was called Smudge. Yes. Always came for me for fusses. Pass away from usually. Oh, that's so sad. Yeah, my dog Cleo, she's the best way. Best way. I think this will hurt. Let's go.
Never stood a chance.
I don't know how I did that, but it just automatically like homed in. Oh no! You're hurting me. You're hurting me. I think I'm out of them recharge things. I'm gonna have to check my items just to see if there's anything I can use here because this guy is a little bit tricky. I have repair kits. Using this item will have no effect. Right, okay, but how do I assign it to something? Use this item. Hard coat? Yes. Okay. Repair kits. Oh. Right, so I have repair kits so I can pause and use them if needs be. Right, okay. I don't know why it's a hotkey dip button though. That defense boost is really helping. It's making up for my lack of skill, which I like. Let's go. Yes! That's the problem with all these construction workers. The road's closed off and no one's ever there doing any work, right? So go on and use one of these repair kits then. There we go, so just boost up the health. Nicely tuned. I would love for it to not have to go through the menu to do that, but you know what, it is what it is. It is what it is. What'd you say? Damn, ever be driving your sweet sports car and suddenly a giant robot stomps you all the time. This is why I don't have a sweet sports car anymore. Because it keeps coming over and wrecking it. Never, after the last 3 times I've been attacked by a giant construction robot, I haven't been able to get insurance. That sucks. Whoa. You love it when you get a good wee combo going. Oh, look at that. We're sucking diesel now. Not sucking diesel, that's a different one. Yeah, see what's happening? I have a theory about construction. When they close off roads with traffic cones for free storage for them traffic cones, that's what it is. They don't have to pay for them. Oh, fuck, that's good. I like that one. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to tell people that I came up with. Thank you, Cassie. Oh, right, okay, that's all it took. I went on to my special move, didn't I? Oh, it's a different phase now. He knows the drill. Hey, what, the music on this is great. It is quite cool, isn't it? Oh, fucking hell. Jesus, sir. We're going to have to go for a larger packet this time. Maybe... Temporary increases credits acquired, raise skill by 1. Am I supposed to be leveling up here? Level up. I have no idea what's happening. I know I'm winning, but I can't see anything. Didn't even bend a fender. We winning? Tomahawk, we are winning. Nope, we were winning. Now we're not winning. The second I said we were winning, I stopped winning. Hang on. There's a story behind it. Originally, I was called codename Diablo 666, and then one night in a friend's stream, I got drunk, and instead of saying bear, I said instead of saying bear, I said beer. And a friend said to me, use that, and another friend shortened my name to Cody. And the shortened my name to Cody, and the two married together, hence Cody the Bear Beer. I like it. I like it. And vibing the music in the background. Thank you. Appreciate it. And I say that as if I made the music. I did make the music. Nobody can tell me differently. So motorway loan for 2 years. Drove past at work 5 days a week and never saw a worker. Then one day I drove past and all cones were gone. They'd moved them to a new location. The traffic cones, they emigrate. You know, for what do you call them? Birds. Go off into different countries depending on the weather. Love that the story. I do like that. I think that's quite cool. I'm using up all my health items here. I don't like that though. It's a bit sucky. Also, he shot his drill arm at me. How did he have another one straight away? I call bullshit. Bullshit and shenanigans. Fuck, he's already depleting my health. Restores weapon energy, 50% hard cooked. I think I have hard cooked already on. Oh, so I can pop these in here. No, using that will have no effect. Right, okay. Alright, I'm out of health now. Fuck, right, okay. It's an online swallow you're talking about. You know when they fly south? What do you call that? Does it emigrate? No, I don't think so. They're carried by a swallow. Are they? That's the story behind them. That's why the workers never left them. Fuck, I'm dead. This is the last checkpoint. The second phase. Wait. Is the airspeed of a velocity an unladen swallow? Right, so we're starting off on the second phase, which is good. Swallow couldn't carry traffic though. Doesn't even have a what? A strength? Doesn't have the strength? Strength, right, okay. So they're going, what kind of word is flim-flam talking about? A strength! I have 2 whiskies on, typing as a challenge. I would imagine so. I have a bottle of wine out there. I was tempted to drink it, but I feel like it would adversely affect the little skill that I have. I might have to be a bit more sensible with this because I don't have the health potions for it. Ah, and then immediately I just died. Make you lock in. I don't think it would. I think it would make me lock in even less. Maker's Mark. Ooh, very nice. Whiskey. Hey, 2 whiskeys in, typing as a challenge. I'm Ryan. Are they just doxing himself there? He is just about to whap me in the face. Right, we'll go with hard coat. That's just a lot of bullshit. I'll just fly up in the air, that's what I'll do. It's a flying car! I like the way he just stops and just lets me whap in his face. You the Autobot, you lack even scratch. I don't know what's happening here. I can't see it. God damn.
Never stood a chance.
I think he stood a bit of a chance. Sideswipe, I think you're being overly confident there, kid. He stood somewhat of a chance. Oh, he baited me. He was a masturbator. He got me good. Ian. Why is he jumping so much? I call bullshit and shenanigans. I have no idea what's happening here. It's all flashy. Oh, we're so close. Oh my god. No! No! So close! Ah. Yes, Maker's Mark. Casual night with a Maker's Mark and Coke. Nice one. Let you what in his face? Cloudbus, you heard what I said. Ahem. Ahem. I'm all jealous now. Big boss, what is happening? Look at that graph. That graph will help me. If I look at the ups and downs in the bar graph, it'll let me know. I'm gonna check on what is the crap, big boss. I was talking about you earlier. Does it use up my items though? That's just weapon energy. I don't want weapon energy. Lucky 2. Not even a more, it's a 2. About as much as ready. Which is fair. Oh, he's in midair, look at him. Thinks he's been Rico Suave here. And he was. He got me good. Thank you for the check-in, folks. And so everybody who checks in goes up a level every stream, and at the end of the stream you go up against the boss. If you beat the boss, everybody who checked in goes up a level. So close that last time. So close. Fine. I like you, Flamash. Happy. Rude. He's on the Maker's Mark and he's already getting so angry.
Solid snake.
Beat the boss housing. That's right.
No,
nobody can beat the boss housing. Because we're all cursed. You are cursed. I don't like that it, even when I'm retrying it, uses up my items. I think that's kind of bullshit. Sideswipe. A bit of a slowdown there, happy days. Oh, yeah. Got me good. Yep, I'm just gonna punch that big rock. I'm going to look under it and see if I can level stuff up, because he seems very, very strong compared to me. It's okay, you can play my first fiddle every time. God. My God. Return the Ark and restock for battle? Yes, we will do that. I hope I don't have to start to level again. Right, so it's giving me loads of upgrade stuff. Maybe I should be upgrading my weapons. Right, weapons. Is this what I was doing wrong? I just wasn't upgrading my weapons. Synthesize. Synthesize. Freeze. Sniper rifle? Where are you? One energon sword. So it's my base weapons. Thermal gloves. Right, okay.
Fucking diabolical.
Fucking diabolical. Right, so these level up the weapons. Right, okay. Oh, McKinn's.
Oh,
Sierra, you never give the dog a treat. Why?
No.
What's going on?
What do you say? Bitch. No.
You quit, my boy?
No.
What?
I'm not gonna give
What,
you a
what?
treat if you call me that. What do you say?
Please. 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 Bitch, please.
Please. Where is the doggo? There she is. And there's her wee tail. I know, pups. Get a wee treat. You get a wee treat. Say it like a butcher. Oi, Huey, my boy. Homelander done killed my wife and stole my damn kid. There we go. Yeah. So we've equipped them. Free slot. For I don't know what. Right, okay. I don't like that flare gun. Woo! Basic sniper rifle. Go with this free sniper rifle, see what that's like. Tech? They can be powered up by tech, right? Okay. Fuck tech. Empty slot. I got nothing. Develop tech.
All right, got it.
Oh, right, a money game. Okay.
It'll have to do.
Right, okay, there we go.
Fascinating. Let me see.
Ooh. Rush up attack. Alright, okay, so these can be bonuses. Okay, I did not know this. Somebody always gets it before me. No, Mackenzie, you got it that time. You did okay. You did okay. You did fine. You did good.
What we can make with these? Something went wrong.
Yeah, it's still good. It's still good. What we're talking about. Right, so you just increase the attack at the cost of losing ability recover. That's knockdown defense. Okay, I can live with these. I can live with these. Status, check my status. Can I level up my stats? Right, here we go. Can I level up my stats? Yes, add XP. Pop up my speed. Charge, and my strength. Does the dog was a treat? That's the important thing. Well, that is true. You're right. You're right, what you're saying. Endurance. So I can take a wee whop, take a wee hut. Right, okay. Okay. Return to gameplay. It never gave me any more healing items, though. That's the one thing. Oh, it does. It search me up right here. That's cool. Will I be more powerful? Let's find out. I don't know. I think I'm taking a little less damage. Still taking quite a bit, though. Did it give me any items back? No, just for energy. Right, okay. So I'm gonna have to just fucking Dark Souls it. Just learn this guy. Just learn his moves. Fuck! Jesus, Tomahawk. I don't think this is a fair fight. I'm just going to say it. It feels a little bit unfair to your benefit. Bite at his ankles here.
At Backlash?
At Backlash.
Backlash.
Yeah.
At Backlash.
At Backlash. Backlash.
At Backlash. Backlash. At Backlash. At Backlash. Backlash.
Ba-bow. It did nothing. Maybe if I change the Optimus Prime. Is that what the problem is? Maybe he's just too weak compared to Prime.
Megatron must
Megatron must do the dishes properly. I don't think it's going much better. Not even slightly. Just bring in you. I never even thought of that. I know it's too easy for you. That's why I keep dying, Devastation. Son of a bitch. Duchess, what's up? My dad is live, you guys. Look at his shiny head. How are you, Internet Day? Today is Internet Day. I am doing good. I am getting my ass handed to me just a little bit by this giant robot, but apart from that, it's all good. Father! Might switch back to side swap. I feel like I was doing a little bit better with him. Just be Tomahawk. Fucking hell, Tomahawk, you've been beat. How you do? You got that Duchess away with it? Let's go.
Oh, hello, Papa. I was just about to... I do not like it. It makes me to look like
Sicily cows, and I am not Sicily cows. That is the best one. Like, see, whenever I first found it, I listened to it about 12 times in a row and just giggled to myself. I don't really enjoy it. Actually, could I cheese it a little bit? If I take... Restores all weapon energy. I don't know about weapon energy, but is there any way I can restore my like, special move? Do that and just kind of cheese him a little bit, you know? But that's just hard. You had your day go. You still getting it as warm as you were? Sucker.
Hey, watch the face!
Autobot scrap. I think this might be him. If I can just get him. Yes! Got him! He's dead! I'm doing well. Just going home for my family night out. Oh, very good, very good. So you beat the robots. I will drive again. Yes.
Autobots. As you can see, I am now in control of the greatest Cybertronian mission ever undertaken.
It cannot be. The Proud Star.
And finally, the diodes tumble.
The diodes tumble.
Going to hasten the Insecticons' mission instead of just cyberforming this city. With me at the helm, the entire planet will be transformed in mere days.
You plan to cyberform Earth.
Let me correct you, Optimus Prime. I don't plan to do anything. I have already started.
But the Earthlings
will die.
My God, Megatron, maybe you're the bad guy after all. Red sports car's finally safe. Yes, he has been scuffed the fuck. But he's safe. Drill arms? I don't want drill arms. I already know the drill. Wheeljack is now playable. Yes.
My
We quit.
services appear to be
He plays Jack as well. Jack is quite a cool character. Those Decepticons, they don't. There's a brilliant part of the Bumblebee movie as well, where the John Cena is talking to superiors, and they're all, maybe we should trust these Decepticons. He's all, whoa, you know, their name is literally Decepticons. Is that not a red flag to anybody? And I thought that was a brilliant touch because no one else ever hopped on it.
A sentry bot has been deployed, which will transfer the key code to the nearest Cybertronian if it is destroyed.
Yep, seems like a very sensible security system.
Its location is highlighted on your map.
Wheeljack incoming!
I'm just going to get whatever this is as well. Item scanner, yes.
Optimus, what exactly is the Proud Star?
Another time, old friend. Now, let us stay on task.
I am just forever jumping. Jumping. Hello, Starlight, thank you very much for coming in. What is happening? Yes, let's go. I think after Devastator, these guys are just a lot easier. Hit the bricks. How is your Saturday night going? What is the crackle so what? I'm just thinking about having was just thinking about that. It's such a great scene it is, and it's a really that's one of the better Transformers films, I think. That Bumblebee one was just a lot of fun. It was very, very small in scale, and that's what it needed. Rather than the Earth is about to be destroyed for the third time this week. And it was the constant, everything that you thought had happened years in the past, it was actually Transformers. It was like Dooms in Death Stranding. Everything was because of Dooms. Ooh, I like the Jack's gun.
Don't mess with the geek!
Nope. You thought you got me, but you didn't. Fucking didn't. They did the old blow pill. Yeah, but they did it with every film. They're all, you thought the ancient Egyptians made the pyramids. It wasn't, it was Transformers. Oh, you thought this happened. It wasn't, it was Transformers. And just like, stop doing it with everything. Everything doesn't need to be Transformers. You thought prehistoric man discovered fire. It was the Transformers. Just like, fuck it in. It's like, the way I envision the Transformers films were made is Michael Bay thought of like 17 really cool scenes that he could do in slow motion and then tried to fit a storyline around that. And I think that was part of the problem. There was no actual story to be told. It was just, right, I've thought of these really cool cinematic scenes that we can put them all in the trailer and that's going to be it. And then we have to try and make a storyline to go around it. Let's go. Nah.
Guys, the tech in the city, it's evolved on a divergent path from our own. It's
My
not from the Decepticons.
God, it's evolved into the Virgin Path from our own. Fucking do it. I looked at the tech and I thought, that tech has evolved into the Virgin Path rather than our own. And I said to Flamash about it and he didn't believe me. He was like, we were chatting shit. And I was like, no. It's 100% evolved into the Virgin Path from our own. And Flamash was like, it hasn't. Every time I look into a monitor, my soul says just because I know there'll be collectibles on here and I want to pick up as much health as possible. Right, which way am I going? Loop Theory, exactly, Loop Theory. So you're Loop Theory and Raccoon City 2, you're right. This game looks really good. Come and get it back on Steam, please. I wish, but I think it's an Activision licensing problem more than anything. Stop shooting me! You're hurting me. There we go, we got him. Rank A, Divorced Mother. Welcome on. How are you getting on? Thank you very much for coming into the chat. Blofeld, that was my point. Everything happened in the film previous was all Blofeld's doing. Yeah, so Michael Bay must have wrote that one. Someone buy all the companies involved and merge them. You know what? Give them enough time and Disney are going to do it. Doing good. I am doing wonderful. I am having a good Saturday night. Playing some Transformers. Having a good time. Oh, there's Hurt himself. What's happening, lad? Insecticons. How was the christening, sir?
It appears we've agitated the Insecticons. Not good. Time to swap some facts.
Yeah, anybody in my chat's not following my buddy to hit, please do so. Streams a lot of Souls games recently, but pretty much does a variety of everything. He is also my co-conspirator in Zero Takesh. Or Zero Takesh. Fuck, I couldn't get the name there, but oh, Wheeljack. Oh, I like his move. That's quite cool. Oh, Michael Bay did this character dirty as well. It made him look like a weird sort of item sign BMW. Wasn't a fan of that.
Access to the Proudster.
Oh, good, dude. It was grand. You know, food was class. How's your Transformers going? It's going well. Going well. Where did you go for food? Where was it? These collectibles. Yeah, I know the red sports car got squished. But now, never playing his Wheeljack, so it's all good. Let's see. Fancy car. I am going to take a quick break. I am going to, the Lincoln Park in this game, they're not catering Derby car, that's true. I'm going to take a quick break. I might actually get my bottle of wine. I don't know. Will it just get juice or will it get wine? What do you think? What's the consensus? Lamosh kind of talked me into it earlier when he was talking about his whiskey. Wine. Right, okay. I'll be back in a minute. So, anybody that hasn't been here before, what kind of wine? Red wine. Anyone who hasn't been here before, my Be Right Back screen, you're going to see 2 games come up at a time. It's exclamation mark vote 1 for the first one, exclamation mark vote 2 for the second one, and at the very end we crown which is the best game. Show us the bottle. I will do. I'll be back in a minute.
your vote of kings. Crown the one that rules your heart. Vote of kings. Tear the old world apart. From Hyrule fields to Lordran's flame. From Midgard streets to Skyrim snow. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of king.
Oh, that was almost very contentious. Sarah, I seen you vote for the wrong game at one point. Call of Duty versus Final Fantasy X. Who the fuck would vote Call of Duty against Final Fantasy X? Vote, get fucked. Blamash, you were wrong. You were wrong. Final Fantasy X was the greatest of all them games that was shown. Everyone's in good form tonight. I like it. I like it. Yeah, so this is the wine that I end up picking. 19 Crimes. Nice wee bottle of red. I'm going to sup on that when I'm playing some Transformers. Oh, I could go for a wee gin. Oh, nice one, Tomahawk. My favourite still one, though. This is true. Sierra, Final Fantasy X is one of the greatest of the games. Come on over, I'll make you one. Ooh, we're all going over the Sierras now for some gin. So the Ark is winning with the wine, that is true. I'll have to get more whiskey. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Right, so back to what we're doing. So we need to go into the Proud Star. Into the Proud Star.
Autobots, welcome to the Proud Star. The
Sounds
great
like a pub.
ship of Nova Prime.
It can't be. You mean an Autobot ship is responsible for all the destruction in the city?
It appears so,
Grimlock. We
Wheeljack.
play as Grimlock when we get a
But
chance.
I doubt it was an Autobot hand that caused the destruction.
Another Cybertronian ship crashed on Earth? What are the odds?
Nova Prime's mission was to preserve our culture.
Do you voice Optimus Prime in this? I do.
Cybertron was a covenant between all
Love the style.
Cybertronians.
I love the style of
colonnade
this. This game has got the
comprised of
closest to the cartoon than
essential
any
aspects
other
of
game.
our
And
Cybertronian
War and Fall
heritage.
Cybertron are great,
And it
but
was
I love this
placed
style.
inside the Pharaoh-Taxis, the supercomputer that controls the Proud Star. The Pharaoh-Taxis literally carries our culture inside.
Which Transformers game do you think is the best?
Historical
It
fun that
is
would be.
Fall
So much
Cybertron.
art and beauty and history has been lost. To find it again.
And Bumblebee has a voice, unlike them
Pharaoh-Taxis
stupid Michael Bay
controls
films.
both the
Bumblebee
plasma
has a
core and
fucking
the
voice.
Insecticons. It directs the power and gives the Insecticons their function and purpose.
Okay, so we find the Pharaoh-Taxis and what? Destroy it? It's got so much of our culture in it. We can't do that, can we?
Also, I know
No,
G shortened up the
can't.
Transformers to
We find the
TF, but it could also be
plasma core
which
and shut
the
it down.
fuck game
Shutting
do you
down the
think is
power is
best?
the most surefire way to stop the cyber forming.
Then we locate the Pharaoh-Taxis and preserve our culture, as Nova Prime intended. But for now, stay focused. There are more floors to this ship. We split up and locate the plasma
I personally
core.
like Transmorphers Battle for Cyberstan. Cyberstan was the best. So which is this then? Minus FF8, what's your favorite? So which is minus FF8, which is your favorite game? Outside of FF8, you're going to be talking things like Metal Gear Solid, Expedition 33, First Berserker Kazan, Resident Evil 2 Remake.
What is it, Optimus?
Felt like the Matrix itself just blinked off and then back on. There is a darkness here. Something that has permeated this place. And
Oh,
the
you get a shield,
Cybertronians
right,
who
okay.
lived here. We will deal with it later if we must.
Wow. Ominous much?
I may have all Metal Gear Solid 1 today and see it's your fault. Fair play to you. That is not a bad investment. Not a bad investment at all. Metal Gear. Love Metal Gear Solid. I would have preferred that the Snake Eater getting the remake. I know they kind of did it with Twin Snakes, but a proper remake for Metal Gear Solid 1 would be wonderful. It doesn't even need to be a remake, just a graphical update. Run at 60 frames per second, some nice new textures, Snake with an actual face. What, Splinter Cell 1 and Chaos 3 for the OG Xbox? Nice one. Oh, looks like a boss fight. I played Twin Snakes version. Now it's time to... Oh, Soundwave! One of my favorite Transformers. He was so cool. Which is one? I haven't heard anything about that in a while. I think I'm gonna have to go for Ravage and Laserbeak. Can I pick them up?
Better luck next time.
Ooh, I'm taking a lot of damage. You got this one, Jack. He's only the same size. He's not like Devastator. He's fucking massive. Oh, that hurt. I wonder if I've got any more health. Have I picked up any more health items? No, just... Maybe increases attack. It would increase our defenses, though. Sadly, my OG Xbox controller left the analog stick, but fucked ordered a replacement solder. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Wait, which... Is there one... There was rumors of a... Well, I think it went even about more beyond rumors. I think they confirmed they were remaking it, but they've never shown anything since. Yeah, there was a teaser, nothing more, yeah. Is that him done? Fuck.
Soundwave, I need you here. The others can take care of them.
Understood. Abort mission.
And that was something about the original Transformers cartoons I thought was quite funny. In the first 3 episodes, the Autobots could all fly, and then after that, they could never fly again. And I was like, never gonna fly again.
Maybe if we blow that Pharaoh what's-it up, it'll stop Negatron.
No. We go to the plasma core and disable it. The Ferrotaxis has the sum total of Cybertronian culture recorded within. If at all possible, we must preserve it.
Well, I can help in killing these guys. Fuck knows. Fuck knows. I got Starstream's log. He did a poop, and I got him.
Something's got the Insecticons riled up again. They appear to be gestating in the pods. Fascinating.
Oh, I'm low on health.
Out of my way.
Where'd it go? Here. Oh, they're just going to keep spawning. Right, okay. Oh, help! Help! That's what I should do, just at my old age, just shout help so I can get help here. I wonder if we could do that, like in a Dark Souls sort of way, just level up our health as we get older. Just by getting people's souls. That's weird. That's not going to work. Open up a pub called Firelink Shrine. back out to there. I know, it sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? I would say someone's probably already done it. Have various Souls game bosses already loaded up, and if you can beat the boss first go, you get a free pint, and if you can't, you get paid double. The trick is, the more they drink, the worse they get. This is the part where Flamash types on his keyboard, I actually get better at games when I drink. And now he stopped typing it and just deleted it, and Sierra's laughing going, ah, you were typing that, weren't you? He's like, no. Fuck a play orc.
Got to be a way up from here.
Alright, let's pick up all this stuff. I love that transforming sound. But yeah, there were so many good cartoons back in the day. And there was a while lot of underrated ones. There was a while lot of ones where... Just following this around him. There's a while lot of ones maybe didn't do well commercially, but they were still great shows. Got through that okay? Don't mess with the geek. Yes, you're right, Wheeljack. Swiss. Where's this one? What is here? Oh, look at this. You're right, okay. Without the reset. That's the same from the other side, but okay, okay. Stop it! Wheeljack, stop it. There we go, energy packs, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know too much about the items and the leveling up on this. It seems a wee bit cobbled together, but you know, it is what it is. There's more. And as a Transformers fan, one thing I fucking love about this is there's a fast transform and a slow transform. So, if you want to take your time and transform, you just stand still and hold the button. And it does it, oh, so smooth. And then if you're running, you can do a fast transform, which I love. I'm sorry, I'm just geeking out here. Love these games. Right, so this is just the storage thing, right? Okay, okay. I need to go back then. Ooh. What? Why is the music kicked in? What's going on? So go this way anyway. Ah, more of these guys.
There is a large swarm of Insecticons heading in your direction. It is too dangerous to fight them all at once. There is a solution. According to the map data, there should be a cargo lift close by.
Oh.
First, head there.
go. Cargo lift. No, you did that on purpose. We're just fucking going for it. Oh, there's shitloads of them. Right, okay, let's go. Cargo lift, cargo lift. I went the wrong way. Shit. It's this way. Oh, they got me in their goop. They jizzed on me. No! Oh, they can fly.
Turret located on the platform.
Would you look at
Recommendation: use the turret.
I was just using the armor bullets there for a wee second. Right, okay, let's go, let's go.
keep coming? Keep coming!
Tell them, Wheeljack. Sons of bitches. All of the loot. Oh my god, there we go. Come on. Let's go. It was kind of like, oh, this is going to be a nice wee chill game, you know, making up from Resident Evil, but it's actually a little bit intense, and boss fights are about... I think it's your lack of healing options that make it a bit more difficult. I mean, that Devastator one definitely was a bit Souls-like at the end, where I really fucking had to lock in and learn his moves. God for infinite ammo. SS rank? Oh my.
It appears I made
Oh my.
somehow.
Parts of this remind me of... Yeah, I kind of get that feel, don't you? There's, oh, well done, Wheeljack. There's bits of it that are kind of very simple like that and just based on fun. Oh, look at that bird transformation. Shrapnel.
It appears the plasma energy is increasing.
Oh, he's a big house.
It's huge.
Oh. What was that noise? Oh, my headphones are making weird noises. Oh, he is a top cookie. I'm going to make a bomb. Bomb! It sounds like they're connecting and reconnecting, but I'm not actually losing any audio of it, which is weird.
Just as I can do it.
I think I have an auto life thing.
Too close for comfort.
I don't even think it gives me a choice to use them, I think it just happens. Let's go. Yeah, they just never did anything after that with the... And I know Splinter Cell's a beloved series, so folks would love to play it. I love the nods between Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell as well. I think Solid Snake actually joined Rainbow Six Siege there recently too. I have no interest in playing Siege, but love the old Rainbow Six games, they were good. Oh no! I failed. I failed. I fell. How'd you get down there? I fell. Yeah. I'm gonna use up another one of them life things. So I don't get a choice, it just automatically uses them, which kind of sucks. There we go, thank God, I was about to die there. Rank C, I can get behind that. Oh, so low health. You have anything for me? No. Oh no, we bit of health. Nice one. Sharks with freaking lasers. Dive bomb? I think so. There's dive bomb and kickback? Or bombshell? Just go make me fight all of them. No, let me drive the car. I don't imagine I'm going to do well against this guy. Actually, you know what? They have items I can take. Oh, I have a repair kit? Didn't see you there, my friend. Put on a hard coat. Actually, I should be able to get him now with this.
That was a fail.
Bam! Get back and shout.
My timing's off.
Let's get stalking.
Better luck next time.
Oh, he's just jizzing all over the place. Sir, control yourself. I do need to pick more health items, so. Sucks to be you. Let's go. Nicely done. I don't even know what half these items are, but it's giving me. We get more health? We do! Yo! But we're missing out in games like this.
Finding Leoric in another
sure, there's
chat
himself.
is not, shall we say, the rarest gym badge in Kanto.
What's the correct Ian? What is happening?
You'll usually find him somewhere making dad jokes, you know? Yeah, but like you're one of those like shiny ones that everyone has because they were like in a special drop or something like that, you know?
Ah, fell down the hole.
My time may be short. Good thing I don't believe in hocus pocus prophecies. Please don't be true.
Stop transforming in the middle of the air, Wheeljack. You're screwing me over, kid. Almost made it to the end. If you're anybody in my chat's not following Ian as well, he is a wonderful Irish streamer. Really, really entertaining, lovely fella. Really funny as well. So definitely give that man a follow. Oh, he's all doing really well. Really enjoying some Transformers. Taking a wee bit of a tonal break from the Resident Evils and the horror games, and just having a lot of fun with this one. This is a delisted game, so can't be bought digitally anymore. We've got a physical copy of it, and playing on Xbox at the moment. I had previously bought this digitally on Xbox, and it is now gone. It is gone. Well, if I had it, kept it downloaded, it would be fine, but I don't like these platforming sections. If I had kept it downloaded, it would be fine, but I didn't, so go fuck, you son of a bitch. that's what we're kind of running into with all this Sony stuff as well, where, yeah, if we have it downloaded on our machines, we're fine, but it's kind of like, you ever look up the people selling the PT machines, where they downloaded PT? I downloaded it back in the day, but I never kept it on my console. Oh no, my console broke, and I had to get a new one, and it was gone forever then.
With the unpredictability of plasma energy, there's a chance that if we blow it up, it'll take half of Earth with it.
Define chance.
My figure's unprecise, but at current calculations, roughly 92.787% chance it will detonate.
One or two. 68% of all percentages are made up on the spot.
Caution around the plasma core.
I love their style in this game. Oh, who's this? The kickback? That is kickback. Ancient Insecticon. I don't know why they're so big. I know they're bosses, but they were never this big. Would you stop kicking me, sir? Yeah, we're going to take a wee item here as well, just because I know that this guy's going to hit for fucking insane damage. So this was made by PlatinumGames, same crowd that likes at Bayonetta and stuff, and you can really see their style of game in this. You know, the fast-paced combat, the dodging, learning bosses. Oh, damn Jimmy. Pedal to the metal. Use focus 100 times. John Passionate with the crowd. Combat looks fun. It is. You wouldn't expect it from a Transformers game where it's just all about using the vehicle modes in combat with combos. Ah shit, it's all three of them.
Reinforcements! I'll take them down too.
Also, I came in here with a whole pile of Autobots. Where the f is everybody else? So it's all about getting them dodges in and trying to get into what's called focus mode, which is just a slow motion, where you can kind of start getting stuck in your combos and stuff. Building up your specials, doing your vehicle attacks, trying not to die, which I'm doing quite a bit now at the moment. I die. The good thing is it'll give me full health and start me back on this phase, which is decent. We had problems with Devastator at the start as well. Yeah, just call on your buddies, why don't you? Enhance. Right, we're going to go with Hard Coat and Power Booster.
I'll take them down too.
It's not an easy game, which is weird. It looks like to be difficult, this one. Wheeljack does have a special that I'm trying to build up as well. Well, Wheeljack, build it. You're different for you because you're bad at the game, mate. No, Tomahawk! Why have you become a sassy bitch? Is Flimosh in your house? I am shocked and appalled. Come on. To be honest, it looks excellent. Sass. I feel like I'm talking to my teenage daughter here now. Come on, big Duchess. There we go. There we go. Sorry, I got hacked. Who did say this?
Now to capture the plasma core and pass it. Going to break the crystal shielding and see if I can't dislodge it.
Admittedly, you've gotten further than I expected, Alban.
Oh, just flap it there.
The Insecticons will feast on your electron.
Electron.
Serious power.
Please, do give up.
It's working. I'm almost
Let's go.
through the shielding.
Oh, it's defending itself. Fucker.
Is becoming unstable. It will explode. If this continues, the whole room is likely to explode shortly.
Oh, you wee fuckers. We're all going to die if you don't let me blow that thing up.
That should calm the reaction. Let's break open that shielding now.
There we go. Got it. We got it. Sweet, gentle Tomahawk could never. I know. I've dreamt of just going over to Tomahawk's house and just combing his mustache for him, but not now. Not now. Not after this. Not after this.
The ship is powered down for now. But if we allow Megatron to retrieve the plasma core before we find it, our victory here will not matter.
Let us get the
must
MacGuffin.
Move quickly.
It keeps giving me all these stats, and I don't know what to do with it. Do you ever get that one link verification code coming through randomly, and you're like, I didn't verify anything? Just make the numbers go brrrr. I will. Oh, Grimlock! Yes!
Grimlock, fight it till it works.
Yes, we shall play as Grimlock. Nothing says incognito more than a giant robot dinosaur.
Big Grimlock say you nothing but CC baloney.
What's the plan, Optimus?
For the time being, the cyberforming has slowed. But Megatron will undoubtedly go after the plasma core to start it again.
I'm just realizing that
And
I
it
put my
sprung
light
a
in.
leak before it ejected. Even if Megatron never gets it, we still have to shut it down.
We should scan for Deceptor creep activity. That plasma core eject button wasn't targeted.
You're right,
Megatron's gonna
Yakko.
need someone to go pick it up.
Split up and find a Decepticon.
Using Grimlock, dodge with perfect timing and press B to grapple and toss them in. Yes! Don't talk about. Look, here we are, folks. We are metal dinosaurs. Yes! And he just runs about the place.
You Grimlock say you full of CZ and baloney.
I breathes fire. It's so weird how this game tickles me. Oh, I'm supposed to go down that way.
Grimlock saver.
Oh, there's a Crim Zeke here as well somewhere. Oh, there he is. Sir, come here. Come here. Stop jumping about. Got him. Blaster. That should do it. Run, dinosaur man, run! Oh, I'm supposed to go that way? Oh no, am I? No, this way. This way, just. Oh.
The claws still got juice left, even with the core removed. Looks like most of the cyberforming is stopped. Not all of it. It's continuing on reserves. And the Ferrotaxis is still fully operational.
So unlike the driving ones where you just hold down the button, Grimlock, you actively have to press B to make him run faster. And he just looks so janky running through the streets.
You dumb and weak. Me crush you.
Me Grimlock save full of seasoning below me.
Dino God.
Let's go. Did he land?
No.
Go up this way. Let's go. Lane is a dinosaur that makes me think of the Lost World Jurassic Park, that game that came out when we would have I want to play the T-Rex level, but never been able to. Yeah, you start off as the wee tiny dinosaur, and I could never get past them early levels. I remember that. That was an awful, awful game. Just imagine living in the game world where we don't watch Leora crash out on this game. Save physical. Save it. But this I know this game is silly. It's everything, you know, that's a bit mental about gaming. But I fucking it's great. It's wonderful. It's something we're going to end up losing. Come back here, dickhead.
Grimlock save full of cesium below me.
Where the hell is it? Oh, there you are. There's yourself. What is Dino attack?
And he's dead.
Stay physical, drink out wine, be bald, repeat tomahawk. It's like you understand me, you see into my soul.
Today is a good day to join our cause, Thundercracker.
My loyalty
Man,
only
look at his
goes
wee
so
dino
far.
bum wiggle. He's so happy with himself.
Plasma energy? That's madness.
Wow, that took like no convincing at all. No wonder they call you Thunder Cracker.
Very funny, dipsqueak. No one should have that thing. You want to get it, that's fine. So long as you promise to get rid of it.
I think we can handle that.
It's
Sorry,
on
I was
the
hacked
island.
again. This
Megatron
game.
sent
I love digital.
Blitzwing after
Go.
it. You're closer, so you might be able to beat him there.
Tomahawk, I've seen your
the
video.
island.
I
Only
know
way on
your
to it is
truth.
across Liberty Bridge.
Sounds like fun.
It was an irked recording in that video. You were made to do it. against your will. Grimlock is just wandering through everything. Man is a fucking beast. Look at him. Nothing's going to hold this boy back. Except that one thing held him back. Everything else, fuck it. But nothing else will hold him back. Ooh, thanks for the memories. Ooh. Don't forget to collect skate and get the secret tape. Yeah, I forgot about that. I was too busy doing my sick moves and building up my high score. It's because of the high stakes. How is this guy bigger than Grimlock? Grimlock saved from the cesium funnel. I wonder what his special is. I haven't actually pulled it up yet. I'm just trying to actually deal with this big guy, and just the rest of them are all collateral damage to get hit with my AoE. Brother, my AoE. I love the Dinobots. I thought they were so silly and so fucking brilliant at the same time. It's like, yeah, we're on this planet, we're in the skies, we're robots in the skies. Here's a fucking T-Rex and a pterodactyl. Why not? What a crack.
They're setting up defenses around the island. Why not just move the plasma core?
Probably trying to patch that leak before they move it. That's what I do.
I think I might have a plan.
Folks, Bumblebee's a plan. My god, the T-Rex is a robot all along. It's not a real T-Rex.
Scanning. There are 2 caches nearby. Warning. Decepticon activity detected. Maintaining visual surveillance.
What the fuck? And now it's a top-down game. Just because.
Got it. Back to bridge.
Further analysis suggests that this energon has regenerative properties. After exploding, it will regenerate for multiple uses.
Oh, these boys are getting in my way. Grimlock. Why is it top down? No one knows. No one knows. Just us. Why it? And I just blew it all up. How many of these have to carry back though? Also, I can't transform. Can he move faster? No. So I can carry it in my mouth. That's it. Autobots, push snake to climb the ladder. Push the action button. Run, Grimlock, run! Nah, you never got me, dickhead. I'll just hit them with this. Fuck, let's go! They're highly susceptible to this. And being whopped by it. Yep, you're fucked. You're fucked, kid. You're fucked. Yeah. Get here. Not sure I'm a big fan of this whole top-down thing, but you know what, it is what it is. And he's such a happy dinosaur, isn't he? What he isn't is doing well health-wise. We're going to use a power booster on these guys. Fucking hell, they are hitting hard. I think it's the fact there's two of them as well is making it even worse. And I can't really read their attacks from up above too, which is a bit of a nightmare. Thanks for the stream, Leoric. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Teddy, I will. Thank you very much for coming on. You absolute legend. You enjoy the rest of your night. Are we getting a Teddy stream tomorrow? There we go. Got you, you fucker. Rank D, yeah. I'll get that. Most likely. Nice. They all sat there and watched that. Starscream.
Long waited for the day I could fight you all myself. Prove my worth.
Starscream, you son of a bitch.
Grimlock will smash you like a can of nano jelly.
Ooh, he's quick. This is not the character to fight Starscream. Although thankfully he's proper sized as well. He's not like massive. Yeah. I am going to swap characters out because I don't think Grimlock's the right one for him. We're going back to Sideswipe, I think, for this one because we need someone a bit quicker. Grimlock can now be selected as playable character.
Follow me. Oh yeah.
Insignificant. Try to die.
Time to die. Ooh, got me. almost dead. Ah, got me. Felt like we did a lot better with Sideswipe.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. Come on. Ridiculous. No, welcome back another stranger. Got that new morning coffee flavour for you. Offer expires while you wait for players are standing by. And you're bloody right.
You overconfident fool!
Where is he? You know, you did call me insignificant, and I don't appreciate it. Just gonna let you know that, Starship. Right, where are we? Where are we? Come on. Am I scrap Starscream? You have a face too that I can come back with full health. Come on, buddy. Oh, he got me. Do I have any health items? Got nothing. Increase defense. They really needed some Starscream voice. They did. The original voice actor, Chris Latta, died years ago. He did Cobra Commander as well in the G.I. Joe. So it's a very hard one to actually get down because his voice was so iconic. But I'm glad they did. Because that character was phenomenal because of his voice. Like, Starscream's always been a great character anyway. He's mischievous, he's diabolical, he's always trying to betray his own commander. But I got me. Yeah, the voice made the character. It's like that for a lot of things. Optimus Prime is the exact same. If it wasn't voiced by Peter Cullen, I don't know what kind of Prime we would have had. And it's the same with everything. Like, if you look at Batman and Joker in the original animated cartoon, Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy nailed it. This is a really good fight. I know I don't have abundance of the old health items like that. It's a good, nice, quick fight, a lot of dodges. I'm liking it. And he is as good as dodging as I am. So there's times I'm going in for a strike and he's just dodging it all the way around as well. Quite good.
I'll take you apart bolt by bolt.
You overconfident fool!
You're headed for the great deer in the sky.
There was help that was kind of hiding about here, wasn't there? Yes. The cars of help. Right, okay. Where are you, Starscream? See, there he goes. You're normally guaranteed that hit, but Starscream just gets out of the way. That little bit. I think Gordon Freeman would disagree. Oh, but the voice actors, yes. Neither one they were both done dirty. Except for Link in the old 90s cartoon of Zelda. Excuse me, princess. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. If you haven't seen that, look it up on YouTube. It is a sight to behold. Where they there we got him. Where they gave Link a voice, and it was horrific. But I could imagine a voice for Darth Vader. Excuse me, Luke Skywalker. I'm your dad.
It's time to stop.
It's time to stop. Is it?
Where the fuck are your parents?
Where are my parents? Who is looking after me?
It's time to stop.
I should be held accountable for my own actions. I was trying to punch that gate that opened for me. Look at me. No, look, lass. Look at that. Oh, shit. Let's wing. Both tank and jet.
Get ready for me. Blitzwing.
Oh. I don't have a target reticle. I just got the guess where I'm shooting. Right, okay. Thanks for the action, buddy. Just kind of got a wee bit contra a wee bit now, which is cool. But behold, we're redeemed to be added. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we might have to add, excuse me, princess, just because. Who's this guy? What's he doing? What's he doing there for? Hmm? Oh, we're fucked up a bridge. Ah, fell down the hole. Hey. We're fine. Fine. We fell down the hole, but we're okay. We survived. First we were afraid, then we were petrified. We survived. So, I don't think I'm surviving this though. Oh, Blitzwing, no! We're actually getting pretty close. This is about where I died though, wasn't it? Oh no, we got him! Nice! Nicely done. Blitzwing's a class. Wonderful, wonderful character. Astro Crane as well, I always liked.
There it is.
There's the core. Love that they gave them zero shits about flying and being a whole ass tank turret. I know, they were just like, physics don't matter.
You got that right, Auto Scum.
And I like how everyone else shows up, and it was just me previously.
No more fooling around.
Here is my retort. What we got for enhancements? Hard coat? Yeah, let's go for hard coat. What are these? Raise strength by 1? Yes. The Autobots are off the side recording their phone. Yeah, they're just like, oh yeah, we're going to get this. We're going to get a TikTok for this. And Sideswipe's like, what the fuck's a TikTok? And they're all, 30 years, you'll know. Not even 20 years, 30. That's how old we are.
Hey, watch the pace!
Come on down, Auto Brat. Yeah. Let's see if I can get some health just by whopping on this stuff. There we go. Nicely job. Nicely job. Where the fuck are you? Oh, I've been frozen. Let it go. Let it go. The age of them never ends. I know. How dare things progress and not be the same as it was back in the 80s. But I'm definitely right. Cartoons were better back then, weren't they? I mean, they were giant advertisements, but they were better. At least I think so. Is there any more help about? Normally there's like a wee car or something I can help bring me some help. Oh, the trees give help. There we go. Nature provides. If I'd known this earlier, Devastator would have been a lot easier. Let's go. That's another thing I always loved about Transformers. The phenomenal, world-acclaimed, award-winning actor Orson Welles, the last thing he did before he passed away was play Unicron in Transformers the movie. It is his legacy! Oh no! I was so close! How fucking dare you, sir? For hard coat. Oh, we've already been out a wee bit on this fight. Early 2000s, 80s and 90s, man. Happy Irish, they were phenomenal. I think the Thor needs a walk, not a problem. It is that time of night. I hope the wee man enjoys himself. And by that, I mean Thomas. Thank you very much for coming in. Sucker!
I'm embarrassed for
you. Ooh. There's been an update to this game as well, because whenever you went into this mode with Sideswipe, he never used to always aim at them. There was times you were facing the wrong way and it would just fuck you. I'll put him on one of those leads. Fucking knew you were going to say that. Just make sure he doesn't shit in anybody's garden. Thorn as well. No, I appreciate you folks. Yes, there we go. And now I'm inside him. Wait a minute.
Everybody.
My
That
poop
lightning
knows
could
no
be lethal.
bounds. Almost does not give a shit.
Find a way to get that thing off the planet. I don't want it on Earth any longer than necessary.
You should have demanded not in the spring. Huh? Starscream.
Starscream taking the core wasn't a part of any.
Also, I don't think he's a hover jet, and also I don't think the size of the jet that he is, he could lift that. Shenanigans! Result Chapter 3D. I'm not doing great, but you know what? I don't care. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. New challenge mode unlocked. I think that's a good point as well to finish up. Oh, I enjoyed that. That was good crack. I didn't know what way that game was going to go, but you know what? It's a bit of fun, isn't it? It's a bit of arcadey fun. And I think that's what I needed after Silent Hill 2, because it was such a fucking deep and kind of PTSD-inducing game. But that was enjoyable. We're going to play a little bit more of this. I think we're going to finish it off. I don't think there's many streams of it. I think it's maybe only one more stream left of it. Not enough squash, 3 out of 10. Cloudbus, thank you very much. Great game. I appreciate it. GG's. Thank you. There isn't enough squash, so it'll be this, and I think after this I'm going to kick into Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Biohazard, which I've never played, but it looks like it's going to scare the fucking shit out of me. Here's with the stream. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you for coming on. I know you have other better things to do on a Saturday night, so I appreciate you coming on and chatting. I really do. We're going to raid out now as well, so I'm going to pop up my schedule first. Schedule. So it's going to be Resident Evil 6 on Tuesday night with Hook. Bets, thank you for coming on and checking on. And then it's going to be Resident Evil 2 speedrun training on Wednesday night. And then hopefully back this on Thursday night. And if we beat this on Thursday night, we can hit Resident Evil 7 then on Saturday, which will be good. Spades, we're just about to raid out. Spades, for anybody that doesn't know, is a wonderful streamer. He's another man from Northern Ireland. If you're not following, please give him a wee follow as well. Absolute legend, playing through first Berserker Kazan. Ian, it may be traumatizing you to watch, but he's smashing. He's tearing through that game. Tearing through it. I am going to see who I'm going to raid now. Who have I got? Ooh, Lazy's still going. May is back, but we did actually raid May last night. Or Thursday night. So I might pick someone else. Well, thank you so much. Sorry, no, not a problem. Not a problem whatsoever. Ooh. What are you playing? James Lee's playing Final Fantasy 14. That could be a shout. James is fucking sound. Really lovely fella. And also, every time I hear his name, I think of the song James Lee. Deeba deeba doubt you. Let us go for James. James, lovely fella. If you're not following James Lee 85, please call in and say hello to him. He is a really nice man, lovely hair, loves Final Fantasy games. So I'm sure a lot of you already know him. He put a brilliant video on our Discord earlier on about talking about the move from physical to digital media. So definitely check that out as well if you're on the Discord. I'm going to check now and see if he's beat the boss for tonight. So the raid message is popping up. Top one is for followers, bottom one's for subs. I'm going to copy my own message. You still wear tidy whities? Thank you very much for calling in. You still not beat the boss. Oh no. You still wear tidy whities? We're just about to raid out, but thank you very much for popping in and saying hello. I appreciate you. So we're going to raid young James, and I will be back on Tuesday night with Hook, playing Resident Evil 6. And then on Wednesday night, playing some more Resident Evil 5, doing some speedrun training. And I will chat to you phenomenal folks then, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
A trail